Hi and welcome to this video. I am in a really big reading mood, so I thought let's start a vlog and see how many books I can read in the next couple of days. I have a lot of books that I'm in the middle of that I really need to finish, and I have a couple of books from the library that need to go back soon, so I need to prioritize those and get them read. And then I also have a couple of books that I recently bought that I really want to get to, so I have a lot of books that I really want to read. Okay, let me put you down so we can talk about the books. Okay, let me quickly tell you about my reading plans and then we can get started with reading. The first book that I'm in the middle of and I really want to get done is Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. I have been reading this book for about a month now and I just really want to finish it. It's not that I've not been liking the story. I've been loving the story. It's just a little bit slow paced and long-winded sometimes. Also been annotating this book. I think some of the themes are really interesting. I will tell you more about it when I do my full review of the book. But for now, I just really want to get it done. So Crime and Punishment will be the first book that we're finishing in this video. But I also want to start a different book. I've been eyeing this book for a very long time. It's The Shadow of the Wind. I've heard amazing things about this book. It's a fantasy book, I think. I don't know much about this story, but a lot of people say that this is their favorite book ever. So I'm really excited to see what it's all about. I've read the first page and I've love the narration of the story. I love the way it's told, so I'm really excited to finally read it. This is also quite a big one. This copy is 480 pages, so almost 500 pages, so it's definitely not a short book. But I think when it comes to fantasy books, if it's a fun one, then you can get through that pretty quickly. So I'm really excited about this. I also have a pretty old copy. It's missing a corner for some reason. So that's the plan for now. I'm going to finish reading Crime and Punishment and I'm going to start on The Shadow of the Wind, and I'll see you when I have an update. I finished reading Crime and Punishment. As you can see, I annotated a lot of it because I just found this book really interesting. There were so many topics that I really loved and I found so unique to this book. And that's what makes this book so great. There's so many things that you can think about and talk about, and it's a very, very complex book. The story is about Raskolnikov. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but he was a student. I think he studied law and he had to drop out because he couldn't pay tuition. He is very morally, not just morally gray, I think he's morally wrong. He has a very extreme philosophy. He thinks that some people are born better than others and some people just have to follow the law, but others are allowed to rise above it. So that is not a very good philosophy to have for a law student, that some people just don't have to follow the law. And of course, he's one of them. He's one of those people who stands above other people, who can have original ideas and is allowed to just break the law. That is his right because he is a better person. So he thinks himself above the law, and then one day he decides to test that theory by committing a murder. That all happens in the first 100 pages, and after that it becomes a little bit slow-paced, a little bit long-winded, and just sometimes a bit boring. So after he commits the murders, this kind of mental battle starts. This kind of cat and mouse game between him and the police investigator start, which is a very, very fun thing to read. As I said, it's kind of long to have to wait 500 pages to get to the ending, but I think that was done on purpose because it kind of gives you this feeling of being on edge and wanting to know what happens, which is how the main character feels. He commits the murders and then from that point onwards he's just mentally and physically ill. He faints all the time. He's so paranoid that he's gonna get caught. I think the book is this length because you need to feel that tension of not knowing what's gonna happen next, not knowing when he's gonna get caught, if he's gonna get caught, and I think the book does that really well. So yes, what I specifically liked about this book was kind of the cat and mouse game between him and the police investigator, and them discussing the investigation tactics was really fun to me. I also found it very interesting how kind of the body responds to his mental state, because in his mind what he did was right. He didn't do anything wrong. He thought he could commit those murders because he's above the law and those people didn't matter anyway. But then when his mind thinks that he's right, his body responds in such a violent way, fainting all the time, getting ill, and just not eating, not sleeping. So I really like that kind of conflict between what his mind was telling him and what his body was telling him. I just found that very interesting. And yes, as I said, the pacing, very unsatisfying pacing. A lot happens in the first 100 pages, the last 50 pages, and everything in between is very slow. But as I said, I think that was done on purpose to kind of give you the feeling that the main character is dealing with. So that's how I feel about Crime and Punishment. I give it 4 stars. I think it was really well done. I loved reading it. I loved annotating it. But I'm also really happy that I'm done and I can move on to the next book, because I've been reading this one for a very long time and I want to move on to the next story. I've now started reading The Shadow of the Wind, and wow, this is such a great book. I can totally see why so many people love it. I started reading the first couple pages and I just had to continue. I just had to know what happens next. It's a really addicting book. It's so much fun. This book is about a little boy called Daniel, and he uncovers a mystery when one day he finds a book named The Shadow of the Wind. And there's nothing known about this book. There's nothing known about the author, and he wants to find out what happened to the author and if there are more books to read by this author. It's about love for reading, love for books, and how books kind of preserve stories and authors and just lives. So I've been loving this book. I've been loving the writing as well. The writing actually reminds me a bit of Harry Potter, because when I was reading that for the first time, I just couldn't put it down. I couldn't stop reading, and this is very similar. I just really want to know what happens next. It's such a good mystery that it keeps you intrigued and questioning everything. I do think that I have a guess for what the plot twist is going to be, but we'll see if I'm right. This book also has a lot of monologues, just like Crime and Punishment did, but this one is way more rewarding. The pacing is way more satisfying, because after every lore dumping monologue, you get a bit of mystery revealed. I've been really loving this. I'm almost halfway through and I cannot wait to see what happens next. So I'm gonna continue reading this and I will let you know when I finished it. Hi, I've now finished reading The Shadow of the Wind, and this was such an amazing book. I'm really happy that I read it. I told you, I think in the last clip, that I had some suspicions for where the twist of the mystery was gonna go, and my suspicions were right, but there were many other twists that I did not guess at all. So this was a very fun mystery to read. It's very entertaining, very magical, and it was about books, which is always very exciting to read about as a reader. This book is about a mystery author who writes a couple of books but then vanishes, and a lot of years later this little boy finds one of his books called The Shadow of the Wind, and he is so in love with the writing that he wants to learn more about this author and find more of his books. And then he finds out that the author is dead and some person is trying to burn all of his books. So it's kind of this mystery of what happened to the author and who is trying to burn his books. And he's figuring it out piece by piece. We get a lot of great side characters, and it's just a lovely story. I cannot give this book anything but 5 stars. It was really, really good, and I can totally see why people say that this is their favorite book ever. For me personally, I have one little complaint that is just, it's not necessarily a complaint, it's not something wrong about the book, it's just my personal preference. I know the book kind of uses this to set the tone and to show you what time period this book is set in, but there is a lot of physical violence, violence against women, a lot of objectification of women. A lot of this book is about sex in general and pregnancy. It's personally is not my preference to read about physical violence against women and seducing women, especially because the book is told from the perspective of a kid. So that's the only complaint. It's just not my personal preference, but other than that, the book is amazing. I loved the narration, I loved the storytelling. One of the things that surprised me is that the main character is a child, but the book deals with a lot of heavy topics, including violence, abuse, grief, family trauma. A lot of these topics are very heavy, and the book includes them, I feel like, in a very beautiful way, but it might be triggering for you. So I would definitely check trigger warnings before getting into this book because I think it has a lot. Okay, so let's pick our next read. I still have one book that I'm in the middle of that I really want to finish, which is Pinball 1973 by Haruki Murakami. I am 43 pages into this one. On the back you have Here to Wincing, which I read first, and then here is a sequel, Pinball. I read Here to Wincing in 1 or 2 sittings. It was very fast paced, very easy to read. I think it's about 100 pages, so it's quite short. Pinball is a little bit longer, but still very short. But I unfortunately put this down. It's just unbelievable how sexist and how misogynistic Murakami's writing is. And I love his writing except for that part. I really love his writing style and his stories and his settings, and that's why I keep reading more books by him. But just the objectification of women and the misogyny is just so present in this book. It was very much present in Here to Wincing as well. I feel like, oh my god, I just opened up a page and this is unbelievable. I opened the book on a random page 60, and the first line that I see is, "The third girl I slept with liked to call my raison d'être." It's just after 40 pages I couldn't take it anymore, so I'm really debating on just DNFing this and not continuing it. But then on the other hand, I don't really like DNFing books. I like to give them a chance, and this one is a short one. It's not an 800-page book, so I might give it another shot in this video. Let's see. I also have 2 books from the library that need to go back soon, which are Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell and The Doll Factory by Elizabeth McNeil, which I had never heard of before. This one has been really popular the last years. And this one just looked like a gothic book, and I love gothic books, so I picked this one up as well. I have to read them both before bringing them back to the library, but which one should I start with, Pinball or one of these? I might want to start with The Doll Factory. I don't know, how long is this book? 350 pages. I just feel like this is going to be such a quick read. What is this about? London, 1850. On a crowded street, the doll maker Iris Whittle meets the artist Louis Frost. As Iris's world expands, Silas's obsessions grow. It is only a matter of time before they meet again. It's interesting. I think this is going to be a quick read, and if I don't like it, it's going to be a quick DNF. Let's give this one a try. I have some new reading updates for you, so let's talk about them. I think I showed you last time that I was reading The Doll Factory. I will keep it short about this book. I personally didn't really like it. I'm happy that's going back to the library. I personally didn't really connect with our main character, and I thought the premise was a little bit predictable. I thought the premise was a little bit predictable. So that's my short review. I think I will give it 3 stars. Just middle of the road. It was fine. It was not bad at all. It was just not really special to me. It wasn't something that I hadn't read before, and it wasn't really new or inspiring in any way. So that's The Doll Factory. Now, I have also started reading the other book that I loaned from the library, which is Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. And let me tell you, I have been loving this book. I started reading this yesterday. I'm almost halfway through, so you can tell that I've been loving this book. It's so fast-paced, it's so interesting, it's so the writing is so gorgeous. Now, I started reading this yesterday morning, and yesterday in the afternoon the trailer for the movie actually came out, which I really wasn't expecting. I didn't know that they were making a movie. From what I know, this book is really inspired by actual real life events. Hamnet was the son of William Shakespeare, who unfortunately died at a very young age. Now, I believe there was very little known about Hamlet's life, so I feel like this book is kind of an ode to him, and I believe real life facts were used, but other than that, it's fiction. So that's basically what I know about the story. Now, I did find it a little bit hard to get into. The beginning is quite slow in my opinion, but if you go through that, the rest is really fast-paced and fun. I've been really enjoying this book. I'm a little bit scared that it's gonna end very sadly, but right now everything is fine. Every time I open the book, I just cannot stop reading. It's so addictive and fun, and I love the writing specifically. I think the writing is so interesting and beautiful. So I've been really enjoying Hamnet a lot more than I expected to enjoy it. Yesterday I started reading Ocean by David Attenborough. It's basically all about ocean life and what we know about the ocean and what we don't know about the ocean. Now, David Attenborough has spent his life, of course, looking into all types of wildlife and nature. And this book is about all the findings that he found in the ocean. This book is a combination between facts and then personal stories from his work experience, but also stories from people that he's met and he's worked with. This book really heavily emphasizes how much we don't know about the ocean yet, but also how important it is that we learn more about the ocean, because the ocean covers most of the earth. The ocean apparently also plays a big role in climate change. I honestly didn't know that. It's so fascinating to read about these animals because a lot of them have kind of a system of working together, how they can procreate and protect their environment, and it's just really interesting to read about. I'm almost done with this book, but I would love to read more by David Attenborough. There's also a couple of documentaries on Netflix I've seen. I've started watching the one about the ocean. It is different from this book. It does repeat some aspects, but most of it is different, so that's really interesting to see as well. I would highly recommend that you look into it. I'm almost done with the book, and I'm kind of sad because I'm so interested in learning more. I'm so fascinated by these animals. But this book references The Origin of Species a lot by Darwin, and I have that one on my shelves. I haven't read it yet. So I might want to pick that one up next because I'm actually really interested in continuing to learn more about these animals. I'm gonna finish these two books today, and then I'll probably start with The Origin of Species, and I have to give Murakami another try. Hi, I've now finished reading Ocean by David Attenborough, and this was such an amazing read. I loved every second of it. It was so informative, so inspiring, and so beautiful to read. I think I have told you a lot about it the last time I updated you guys, so I don't have to go into all detail, but it was very beautiful and I would highly recommend it. This book is in one way very beautiful because it talks about all these amazing animals, but in another way also very confronting because it talks a lot about climate change and human impact. As I said, the book is a combination of facts and personal stories from people, and it also talks about stories from people who have done something to protect and how that kind of impacted the environment. I would read 10 more of these books. It's so beautiful. So I did give it a 5-star because it was so gorgeous. It also has amazing pictures. I think I showed you some. I really like this one. The color scheme is just really beautiful. This one as well, of this ice, is just really gorgeous. It focuses on small animals, big animals, old ones, new ones, animals that live in hundreds of thousands, and animals that are almost extinct. So it really covers a lot of subjects, and it kind of all brings it back to the same message. We need to act to save the ocean. So that's Ocean by David Attenborough, 5 stars. Would highly recommend you read it. Then I also finished Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. This ending was heartbreaking. It was gorgeous, and I really loved reading this book. It's so sad, but so wonderful at the same time. I don't know how to explain it. This is a very sad story, of course, because it's about losing a child, and I feel like that topic was handled very beautifully. It doesn't gloss over the topic, it doesn't move on too quickly. I think that's exactly what this book needed, but it also has this very powerful message, this very beautiful message at the end, which keeps it from being too depressing. I think the beginning of this book is not that good because it starts off with Hamnet entering an empty house, and he basically cannot find anyone of his family. He just goes around in the empty house, and I feel like that was not that interesting. First, when I started reading the book, I kind of wanted to DNF because I wasn't really hooked in the beginning, but once I got through that, it was a lot more interesting, a lot more fast-paced. So if you're also a little bit put off by the beginning, I would recommend that you keep reading. So I can't wait to read more by this author. But Hamnet, I'm gonna give it 4.5, 5 stars. I've shown you that I started reading The Origin of Species by Darwin. This is so random, but I have the illustrated edition. It really has gorgeous illustrations, especially when he's describing a certain type of bird, for example. It will have illustrations of kind of the anatomy that he is describing, so that's very helpful. Now, of course, the text is a bit dense. Darwin, of course, had a lot of theories about nature and life, and some of them have been kind of modified or disproven the past 200 years. So Richard E. Leakey has kind of made annotations and tells you what theories have been disproven. That's very interesting to read, to kind of see how Darwin thought about it and what we now know, because of course now science has advanced so much more than in the time Darwin was alive, and it's really amazing how Darwin has come to these conclusions without the technology of today. That's just very, very impressive. But it's also nice to see that we have learned more since Darwin wrote this book. As you can see, it is quite dense in information. It's a very nice book to read after reading Ocean. It's a very nice book to read if you want to learn more about nature and kind of more of a theoretical book on nature. Actually, I have a theory about this. Now you might be like, why the heck are you reading this? And I asked myself that question, but I have a theory why I'm reading so much nonfiction. And that is because this is gonna be the first year, ever since I can remember, that I am not going back to school. I know. And you might be like, so what? But to me, that's a really big deal. And I'm kind of coping by reading all of this nonfiction. To you, it might not be a big deal, but I still cannot believe that I'm not going back to school. I just love learning. I love studying. I won't be having back to school season this year. It's so crazy. Of course, now I can learn and study at home. That's what I'm doing with these nonfiction books, learning a lot of things that are not necessarily from a specific curriculum at school. I love learning. I don't think I will ever stop learning, and I think books are a really accessible way to get more information without having to pay thousands for a degree. I mean, school is really expensive, unfortunately. So yeah, I love books. If that wasn't clear. I love books, and I'm currently in a non-fiction phase. That's also a little life update, and that's probably why I've been so interested in so much non-fiction. Now, I did promise you in the beginning of the video that I was gonna give pinball another chance, so I think that's what I'm gonna do. It will be a nice kind of... Will it be nice though? I don't know. It will be a change of pace from Darwin, so that is what I'll be reading alongside The Origin of Species. This is so random. That's how it goes sometimes. Because pinball is quite short, to finish off this video, I want to read another book. So I'm going to introduce that to you right now. I am talking about Persepolis by Satrapi. I am really sorry. But Persepolis, I'm so excited to read this. I'm so interested in this. It is, again, a non-fiction, so you can really tell that I'm in a non-fiction phase. But it is a graphic novel, though, so it's really different from those other books. So this is a non-fiction about, I believe, Satrapi's own life. It tells the story of her life in Iran and how living there affected her. I think it's really unique that it's a graphic novel, and I think it's really interesting to be able to visualize a lot of it, because mostly when you're reading a book you have to come up with the imagery yourself, of course. So it's really interesting to see it already visualized for you. I will now stop talking so I can get back to reading, and I'll see you when I have an update. Hi, I'm back with some reading updates. I've now finished reading Pinball by Murakami, and I can now definitely say that I didn't like that book. It didn't get any better. I'm happy that I read it all the way through and I didn't DNF it, but the book did not get any better in my opinion. I think I told you that the female characters in the book actually do not have a name, and I critiqued that at first because I felt like the characters were very non-existent. Now, it actually might have a purpose that they didn't have a name, because it's to show how lonely the male character is, that he doesn't even know the people around him. It might even be that these women weren't real, he just made them up because he's so lonely. So I think it did have some purpose in the story, but I just found it a very strange portrayal of women and I didn't like it. So Pinball is, like Hear the Wind Sing, getting 2 stars from me. After that, I finished The Origin of Species by Darwin. It was a very interesting book. The pictures helped a lot to visualize everything. Sometimes Darwin is talking about a specific bone structure in comparison to humans and other animals, and you know, I haven't studied these animals, so I wouldn't know their specific bone structure. So it was nice that the book had these pictures. What else can I say about that book? It's just so impressive how Darwin and these other scientists that were also mentioned in the book, how they came up with all these theories and researched all these animals and were able to publish these works, even though it was so against what people believed at the time. I found that really fascinating, and I'm really happy that I read it. Then I finished reading Persepolis, and wow, I've been thinking about this book ever since. This is a heartbreaking story about a woman who grows up in the Iranian Revolution and the war between Iran and Iraq. It's a non-fiction, so it's a true story, and it's told with a graphic novel style, which I found very unique. The graphic novel style really helps to kind of lighten the mood. She adds a lot of jokes in there. Some drawings are really funny, so it kind of helps to lighten the story, because otherwise it would have been a very, very tough book. It still is a tough book. This is someone's real experience, and I have so much respect for this author for writing this down and publishing this, especially coming from a country where freedom of speech is so limited. I just feel like it's very powerful that she was able to write this down, and I'm just very grateful, I guess, that I was able to read this. I think that's the overall feeling I have. It's just a lot of gratitude for the country that I live in, and that I'm able to read this book. This book is about the Iranian Revolution, which is a topic that I honestly didn't know much about at first. Going into this book, I did some research about Iran and their history and the events that are described in this book, because I wanted to know a little bit more. This book has to obviously put a lot of information and history into a very small amount of pages, so I did some research on my own about Iran and the events that happen in this book, because the Iranian Revolution and the war between Iran and Iraq is just something that I was not really familiar with. I didn't know much of the political standpoints that are described in this book. I just felt like I needed a little bit more information, a little bit more background, and just another point of view on the situation. So it was a very interesting read. As I said, I've been thinking about this book a lot, but it's also been a very sad and confronting read. To read about this country and this family going through war, losing all of these people, kind of losing their home and the country that they've known for so long. The main character having to move so much and don't know the people, don't know the culture, the language, was just very difficult to see. Also to know that so many people, and especially women, are very oppressed and very scared, and living like this is just very, it's a very difficult topic to think about. This book also talks a lot about war and religion, and kind of the propaganda that the government used to get people to become soldiers and go to war, and the idea that if you die in a war and fighting for your country, you automatically go to heaven. So dying in a war is something that you would want, something that, you know, would benefit you. That was very hard to read, very difficult, very saddening. Also just the guilt of people who survived the war, kind of the pressure that you have to do something with your life because you got this chance at living while others died in the war. It's such a difficult topic, and she explains it very well. Also to know that this happened relatively recently is just very confronting, and overall I would say that this is a very difficult book. That's why it's so interesting that it's written in graphic novel form. I don't know what else to say. I'm very impressed by this book. It had its funny moments and its very difficult moments. I felt like it was really digestible for such a difficult topic, and it really makes you think. It's very provoking, and I love those kind of books. Overall, I would highly recommend this book. I think I will give it 4 stars. I think that concludes this reading vlog. We read a lot of books. How many did we read? We started with Crime and Punishment, then we had Shadow of the Wind, then we had The Doll Factory, then Hamnet, then Ocean, then The Origin of Species, then Pinball, and now Persepolis. So we read 8 books in this video. As I said in the beginning, I was in a really big reading mood, so we got through a lot, and I'm really happy about that. We finished all the books that I was in the middle of. I think we found some new favorites: The Shadow of the Wind, Hamnet, Persepolis. So I think this was a very successful vlog. I want to thank you so much for watching. Please let me know if you've read any of the books in this video and what you thought of them, and I'll see you in the next video.